And we're back on the road again. Welcome back to Vincent's Bike Ride for the next instalment, and this will be day 5 after an easy 2 days at Pukekohe racetrack. So today we're going to head north through Auckland. I think the whole day is just going to be Auckland, so it's not going to be very exciting. I'm going to have the camera mounted on the front of the bike, not my helmet this time. Mainly because I'm so far behind the editing. It takes so long. I'm videoing too much. So, sorry about that. So, I won't be talking very much today either. I might do some voiceover later. You'll know that more than I will. But this is Pukekohe. I don't know much about Pukekohe. I'm not a very good tour guide for New Zealand. I never really looked that much about it. I could tell you so much about Egypt and Jordan and Poland and Latvia and Russia, but not so much about a lot of New Zealand towns. But we'll plod along today. I had a very good time at Pukekohe. Saw a lot of faces I haven't seen for a long time, like over 10 years sort of long time. So that was cool. Also, I do know a person in Auckland, so hopefully I'll be able to see them as well. Hopefully I'll get there today. But he of course lives on a part of Auckland which is a lot further than I intended to go. I didn't intend to go up to the northwest of Auckland, but I will now. This is a very typical New Zealand shopping area. Just normal, I'm sure in a lot of countries around the world. Well, I hope you're enjoying Vincent's Bike Ride. Hopefully I'll get to enjoy it too. Just need to get that bit fitter. It's a nice day for cycling. It's actually a bank holiday. I'm not too keen on cycling on bank holidays, but where I was camping at the racetrack, you had to leave today. Also, I need to keep going. It's too easy to stagnate. Here comes a sign, so I might find out where I'm going. Another problem today is I'm going to be getting lost. I do not know Auckland. It's a big city, an area, and it's got like, I know it's over 1 million, maybe 1.25 million people. So that's something. I don't know any of these places. Bombay, Hamilton. I don't want to go to Hamilton. Auckland, okay, that's what I want. Problem is these will be motorways, and I can't go on motorways. Another problem is I don't have a good map of Auckland. Are you stopping? Weird drivers. Oh, just stop. Then again, I was rolling. My fault, I'll take it. No one's hurt. smells bad here. I don't know what that whiff of smell was. Anyway, I might pull over shortly and move the mic so it won't be on me. So all you hear is my breathing all day, dying of oxygen starvation, gulping away at air. So I'll pull over once I find a nice spot, and I'll sort out my camera and such. To cross the road at the something district court. Seems like a nice enough building to use. Pukekohe District Court. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very good. Oh, it looks like there's a bridge. Oh, the rail bridge. Even you guys can see that, I think. Well, that's it for me for now. Hope that wasn't too boring. Talk to you later. And now I thought I'd just quickly show you some photos of a weta. I found this on my tent as I was rolling it up. It's quite big. Here's some scale using my fingers. They're harmless, but they do bite you. It's like just a bite though, it's no poison. And here's my bike where I am right now. I'm at Pukekohe, but now we're going to hit the road. So we're back on the road, and as you can tell, it's now back to voiceover Vincent. Yes, due to my stupidity, I've managed to get no audio for this whole day. So I'm afraid it's going to be a voiceover Vince day again. I think the reason there's no audio, I think I actually just forgot to turn the microphone on. Oh well, these things happen. So we're going to go at times 2 speed the whole day. So all this video is going to be at times 2. So it'll shorten the day. Most of it's going to be initially through the countryside as we're on now. We're leaving Pukekohe on, I think it's Franklin Road. And I'm heading north, of course. And I'm heading for a road called Cape Hill Road. So we'll see what happens when we get to these sorts of junctions. So here we come up to a bit of a rise. I think the people look funny when they're walking double speed. Anyway, maybe that's just me. So the wobbles, as the camera is now affixed to the front of the bike, it's not the 360 camera, so the camera is going to be shaky when the bike moves, naturally, because it's fixed to the front pannier rail or luggage rack of the bicycle. So the wobbles are just mainly because I'm not going very fast, and as you pedal, the bike goes side to side. As you can understand, just weight transfer, I guess. So sorry about the jerky pictures, but yeah, as I'm fond of saying, it is what it is. Can't change it now. But again, I'll reiterate, I've said this I know a lot of times, the camera does make the hills look a lot easier. It's the depth of the lens, I think. It also makes things look further away. You might notice often I'll read a sign or something, and when I look at this footage I realise I can't actually even see the sign as to read it. I can see there is a sign maybe, but when you're in real life it's actually quite easy to read. I haven't got super bird eyesight or something. So as we crawl over this hill, I don't know what it is. I mean, Pukekohe is Pukekohe Hill, so maybe this is Pukekohe Hill, I don't know. Now we're still in the outskirts of Pukekohe. I've kind of always imagined Pukekohe being on pretty much the edge of Auckland, so I thought The actual ride to Auckland, as in into the city part, the continuous city part, wouldn't be very far, but it's actually quite a long way. It took me well over an hour, I think maybe even an hour and a half, 2 hours. I can't recall the time exactly. I know I could check here, but hey, it's more fun to be a bit in the vague, I think. Been in this entire day from Pukekohe to the place in Auckland when I spent about 4.5 hours riding, and I think most likely a good 2 hours of that would have been just getting to the actual city. I thought I was much closer. So yeah, it actually made the day a lot longer than I thought it would be. I didn't really know the distance, and I didn't know where Henderson was until I asked my friend, and I had to look it up on my map and realised, yeah, it was the quite a long way from where I am, and from where I would enter Auckland. I entered Auckland directly south, and Henderson's in the northwest of Auckland. And Auckland's a big urban sprawl of a city. Not a massive population by any accounts. I mean, compared to places like China or the UK or the USA, but a city nonetheless. So that was a little fade in and out because I actually stopped there to check my directions, and this now I think is that Cape Hill Road, which we'll trundle down for quite some time now. All the dry countryside of the summer in the north of New Zealand. Today is actually a bank holiday in New Zealand, so I figured the roads wouldn't be so busy, especially in the city. So that's hopefully a good thing. I tend to not like travelling on bank holidays just because a lot of things are closed. And if you want to get like some more water especially, or even some food, or even pulling over to ask for directions, yeah, it's not really possible when all the shops are closed, is it? During this day especially, but often in my travels, you hear me say I stop and look and check directions. You may be wondering, because we live in this so-called modern age of technology, wouldn't I just use like a mobile phone or something? Just have like a map application or some map software, like a satellite navigation setup, and just go on that. For one thing, I don't have mobile internet. In New Zealand, quite frankly, it's way overpriced. The mobile phone system is, for me, very expensive. I can't justify the cost. Where I live, I have wireless internet if I need it on my land internet. I tend to use wired connections whenever I can. They're always the best. I mean, you're not wasting all the energy trying to transmit through air, are you? I did actually study electronics, so I do know a bit about this. So I'm not being some weird conspiracy theorist or something. This is just, objective facts. Pushing electricity or electrical signals or any sort of signal through the air is much more difficult than pushing it through a wire. The wires have much better conductivity. I won't get into that as I have a little stop here. I think I was just taking some water at this time. I am recording this audio quite some time after the event, so bear with me. But as I was saying, yeah, the internet is better on a wired connection, so I don't really care for wireless. Though I do have a wireless connection, so I can attach my tablet, which I own, which I bought for this trip, which is a It is what it is. Again, my thing I like to say. I'm not a big fan of Android, I've learnt. It's actually a pretty terrible operating system, very, very restricted. Not as bad as Apple, of course, or restricted as Apple. I've heard Apple is very good as in easy to use, but very, very restricted as in you can't really change or you can't do what you want with it. You do what you're allowed with it. Yeah, so that little pause there was actually me checking my directions, and now we head off again. I think this might be where I turn into Burt Road, and we'll race along this road now at, of course, still ×2 speed, because this whole day is fast. I wish I was going this fast in real life, but alas, I was crawling along at my usual pitiful speeds. But as I was saying about having the internet, yes, I do have wireless I use on my tablet, and I can use it on my mobile phone, but I don't have internet on my phone. So I don't use my phone for satellite navigation, because now that's internet based, which I don't have. Actually, this could be Burt Road. It doesn't matter which one it is. I know I end up on Burt Road. As I'm riding, I can read the signs because I'm going considerably slower. And that little edit there was, I was actually going down that hill and one of my bags jumped off, one of my front panniers, front right. I've never done that before, it's very strange. So I had to lie my bike down and run back up the hill, hoping no traffic would come and trample the bag. Fortunately nothing came, and I got the bag back on the bike and we're off up this hill. Of course it's a hill. It's always a hill. So yes, back to the internet. I'll finally get to my point on this some stage, I guess. Why I'm not using satellite navigation. Yeah, so I don't have wireless internet on my phone. My tablet doesn't have a phone connection type system. It's only a Wi-Fi tablet. I didn't want it to have phone capabilities. I don't want those on it. Because I'm not really a phone user. To be honest, I don't really use my phone that often, so it seems a bit pointless to buy an expensive phone for one thing. I don't really understand why people spend so much on their phones. To me, they seem very, very overpriced. I know people use them for cameras and such as well. Like a lot of people who would record these sorts of events on their phones. I much prefer using actual phones. Actual cameras. They're much more versatile, and I think they have generally better capture methods and such. But of course, you buy a multiple $1,000 phone, of course it's going to have a very, very good camera. Maybe even better than the camera I'm using now, because these cameras I'm using aren't super expensive. So yes, I don't have the internet while I'm traveling. Another reason why I don't upload these videos when I'm traveling. I just, I can't, for one thing. And at a lot of places you can stay in New Zealand, if they do offer internet, they charge you very high rates. When I'm recording this, as I said, it's after the event. I'm uploading these videos. And the videos that I ended up making, which were about an hour long, were just under 50 minutes, 45 minutes, these sorts of lengths. They take up about 7 or 8 gigabytes of space, which if you're not familiar with computing spaces, is a lot. Generally movies are like 2 gigabytes, a 2-hour movie. So yeah, 7 or 8 for less than an hour is very big. I'm just trying to keep the quality, because once you upload to online services, the quality does suffer. The online services compress the video a lot. As I pause here to have a swig of water. They compress, so the quality does suffer. Geez, this is a long break. I must have been very thirsty. Hopefully we get going soon. Oh, there we go. Off we go again. So I like to upload big files. And at one of the places I do stay in the future, I asked about the internet there because it was an expensive place to stay in my eyes. I was camping in a tent, and they had a deal where you could pay New Zealand $20, which is equivalent to 10 English pounds, for 5 gigabytes of internet. This is terrible because I can't even upload one video with that, and that would cost $20. And the fact they charge by the gigabyte is, all the places that do that, this is a terrible money-making scheme. There's no reason to limit the amount of internet you use. The bandwidth, like the speed of the internet, is important. Giving you faster internet, that makes sense they charge you more because it takes more bandwidth of what they can share with other people. But the actual quantity is irrelevant. I didn't even know they had quantities on internet outside of mobile, and they had, I mean, in the UK I had mobile internet and I had unlimited, and it was relatively cheap, especially compared to the other countries I've been to, and especially New Zealand, Australia. I mean, Australia they have terrible internet, so overpriced. And Australia was the first place I actually heard about on land internet, your landline internet, capacities for how much you can use in a month. I moved into an apartment in Perth of Australia, Western Australia, and the guy who was the principal renter, I guess, him and his wife, he told me they had 100 gigabytes of internet. And I was like, do you mean 100 megabytes like speed? Because I didn't know what he was talking about. But he said, no, I've got 100 gigabytes of internet. And he didn't seem to understand what I was getting at. He didn't seem to know. I was confused. He didn't. We had a communication breakdown. He didn't know what I was talking about, and I didn't know what he was talking about. But eventually we got through to each other what it was, and it was, yeah, you only get 100 gigs a month, or they start charging you a very, very high or large amount of money to use the internet. And another thing that I thought was just dreadful about the service was there's no way of, when you get to your capacity of internet, it just stops. No, they just start charging you a really high rate. This is like terrible. It's like robbery. It's like, we're going to steal all your money. It's just, the internet is terrible. And New Zealand's the same. It's just terrible. And I'd never heard of these limits of 100 gigabytes a month and all this, and this is just a joke. I've later come to realise by looking a bit into it, not too much, so I don't really care, and it seems to come from the USA, which I think most people know have very, very expensive internet, and not very good internet either. They're quite renowned for their terrible infrastructure, but that's what you get when you make everything private. All the lines are privatised. At least in New Zealand, the actual line that has the internet going through it is publicly owned. The government owns it, the government installs it, and all these horrible telecom firms rent them and charge you way too much to use the service, and then limit you to how much you can download a month. Or upload and download a month. Absolutely rubbish. But then again, the internet's pretty bad anyway. I quite liked, when I was cycling, not having the internet for a while. I do like to watch videos on the internet, just mainly YouTube. I don't use anything like Netflix, all those services. I think they're just overpriced, and you don't own anything. It's like a rental service that I don't like it. I'd rather buy the things I want than use these services where you're paying constant money. Same with the gaming services. I think they're terrible as well, like computer games. I do like computer games, but I'd never sign up for these pay monthly schemes. I don't think they're a good idea. But that's up to you. You can pay for what you want. That's how the world works. But it would be nice if we had a system where the internet was reasonably priced. And it wasn't just full of garbage. I mean, it's great if you want to watch porn, I guess, or cats. That's about it. I don't understand the whole social media thing either. I know I'm putting videos on the YouTube, which is a social media platform, I guess. But I think it's more of a one-way service, as in I put things on YouTube. There's no real... What I put on isn't influenced by the outside. Especially the fact that when I'm recording this videos, I hadn't put anything on the internet. And as I mentioned before, I don't expect many people to watch these. Mainly just family and friends, because it's not exactly the most exciting thing in the world to watch a bicycle going slow around New Zealand. Even in this case, when it is twice the speed I'm actually travelling, it's still very slow. But if you want to see the world, this is the way I do it. And I hope the people that do watch it, you watching now, do enjoy it. And I hope I'm not being too cynical and annoying you about my feelings towards internet. The social media, I just don't use it. Simple as that. I personally think Facebook and those services are quite terrible. I remember when they came out and people used them to meet up with school friends and such, which is, yeah, good idea, I guess. If you want to hook up with people you went to school with and drifted away from. Personally, I always figured the people I cared about at school, you tend to keep in contact with. Because you cared about them, they were friends. So I never really got into the whole idea, and I'm glad I didn't, because people almost feel trapped by it. It is a trap, and the whole giving you the likes and all this sort of rubbish, where it's just to make the person putting the stuff feel good. It's like a little rush, which is, I think, just manipulative. And the whole service now really is just to shove ads down your throat. I'm very, very not into the advertising thing. I think it's dreadful. The marketing of the world is just atrocious, if you ask me. It's so manipulative to people and very unfair to people as well. One of the things that really gets me is, like with Google and such, for this YouTube I had to make a Google account, of course. I didn't have one. I don't like Google usually. I don't use them for search or anything. So I set up an account and I went through all the settings of privacy to turn off like the ads and such. I don't want to have them choosing what ads I want to, like, from, you know, following everything I do on the internet to choose what ads to show me. I'll get back to that in a second, because right now we're going to come up to another stopping area. This is where I stopped for a few minutes. Of course, I'm just going to mix the video so it doesn't look like I stopped at all, but I did stop here for a few minutes. Went into the shade and ate some fruit and had a good drink of water and refilled my water bottles from the bladder on the back of the bike. Just across the road from this junction I went to, where the hedgerow was. Now we're back on the road. Taking off down the road, or up the road, I guess it's a bit of a hill here. And this is now the Great North Road, which I'll follow for some time to get right into the centre of Auckland. I think this was traditionally the old main road from Hamilton to Auckland, since replaced by a big motorway, which I think we do cross at some stage. Maybe it's here. I can't tell from looking at this footage, but I'm not sure. No, I don't think it was. I think this is actually going on to the Great South Road now. Yeah, I'm quite sure this is it. Anyway, we'll carry on. We're going to go into Auckland City shortly, or the start of the city, I guess. Into an area called Drury. But as I was saying about the Google, the ad thing, how you can opt in for, or you have to opt out, which is the worst thing about it. You should have to opt in my opinion, but of course, to make the most money, it's better for the companies to have you opt out, because that means most people don't opt out and they get stuck with the horrible things. So the way the service works, it seems, is they monitor everything you do on the internet, and from that they can decide what to show you. At this point I actually go down this little cycle lane. I thought it might be better, but then it throws me back across the road here. As you can see, it's a poorly maintained cycle lane. Yeah, it throws me back across the road and I end up just at this junction. It was like the most useless cycle lane ever. But anyway, that's what it is. Back to Google and their monitoring. So they monitor you and they choose from what you look at on the internet and what you search for and what you watch on YouTube and things, what sort of ads you'll be more likely to buy things through. So you're seeing ads which are more likely to entice you to spend money. And when you opt out, because of course you have to, if you don't want this service or don't want them monitoring you, but I think they still do. I don't think they stop. I think it just means they don't show off as much how much they're manipulating you. But you can opt out, and it says, do you really want to opt out? You'll just get random ads, not ones for you, specified for your likes and dislikes. And all I could think of, well, I actually want no ads. I don't want any ads. And if I do see ads, I would much prefer ads I have no interest in, because it's no temptation. And I find it baffling that people think it's better to have ads of things you want. It bewilders me. These companies making billions of dollars just from manipulating people for what advertising they want to see. That's all these companies are, advertising companies, which to me are one of the most lowest forms of companies in the world, and yet now they're the biggest in the world. Quite grotesque. So of course I opt out all these things, though I know they'll still monitor it. Hence, all the things I'm doing on to the when I put videos onto Google's YouTube site, I'm doing it all via my tablet. I'm not putting anything to do with this email or web YouTube channel on my desktop PC. I just don't want that connection if I can. I'm trying to resist it. I resist Google's spying as much as I can. They are quite a horrible company. But if you like Google, good for you. I'm not trying to say don't use their services. I'm using YouTube, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite anyway. Anyway, I think I've dribbled on enough about the internet. We all have it, we all use it, or most people. I do know some people who don't use the internet at all. Good for them, I say. Landline phones and just regular television services tend to be older people. I think they're living a better life. They're not getting all the hatred from the internet. You know, now we're actually in Auckland, or the edges of Auckland. This is, I think, still Drury area. And from here we'll be heading into Papakura. I'm hoping I'll see a sign at some stage which will identify Papakura. We're down to now a 50k zone. You might have seen the sign. So this is usually more residential areas. And I do feel the traffic is not as bad as it could have been today. I think I've been on the bank holiday has kept it a bit quieter. I honestly can't really quantify that. I don't go to Auckland. I mean, the last time I've been to Auckland, I went up with my brother one day. He was looking at buying a motorcycle, and I went with him because being a motorcycle technician, it's good to have someone like me look at the vehicles you wish to buy, to check them over. If you have the option, it's going to be always better, isn't it? And that was about 4 years ago, I think. So Auckland is one of these cities that is very spread out. There is a centre of Auckland naturally. It's around the harbour area. I don't go near that on this journey, frankly because I needed to go to the northwest to see my friend, but also to cross the harbour to go to the northern part of Auckland, North Shore, because on the southern part of the harbour is the main heart, or the centre of Auckland. There's a bridge that crosses the harbour, and this bridge is not bike friendly. You can't take a bicycle across it, you can't walk across it. It's a pretty useless bridge unless you're in a motor vehicle, which is very annoying because the detour is substantial. So I have to take these roads because I can't go on motorways. So later on I do actually find out a lot of the motorways now do have cycle lanes on them. When I was contacting my friend about visiting him, he said how, which motorway turn-offs to take, and I just texted him back on my mobile phone to tell him I'm on a bicycle, I can't go on motorways. And I didn't get a reply, and when I'm cycling I have my phone turned off. For one thing, I don't hear it. If a call comes through, I won't hear it. The bag on my handlebars makes it I can't usually hear the phone, which is really good. Also, I don't want the disturbance. I don't want to have to stop for a phone call. I'd rather just turn my phone on in the evening once a day and check if there's any missed calls or messages. That's all I need. I don't need to have the phone on at all times when I'm cycling along. In fact, I don't want it on. So I didn't get a message from him, but I can't remember if he said he called or he sent a message. I can't recall now. It was when I arrived on this evening, because he sent the message I think in the morning of the Monday, which I am now riding on, and he told me, the motorways now have cycle lanes on the sides of them. So it made it possible to, I could have gone on them and it would have saved a lot of the hassle I went through on this day. So now we're continuing on. As I said, I'm not too sure of where I am. And even when I was doing this, I wasn't 100% sure half the time. So I was at this junction, I can't see signs. So, I mean, as I said, I'm going towards Pukekohe. The only downside is I've never been to Pukekohe before, so I don't really recognise it. So it is a built-up area, I think, with the town, so maybe that was it we went through. It's not really that important, is it? They're just place names. Maybe one of you can pick it up on one of you people can see it on the footage. It says on the run for that service station. No, couldn't see that sign. Anyway. So I think I was saying earlier how Auckland is south of the harbour and I couldn't cross the bridge. Auckland is one of the cities in the world which is a massive urban sprawl. There is a city centre, as I said earlier. I know I'm repeating myself. But it's a very spread out city. Everyone has their little bit of property. So it's not like a city in, say, Cairo especially, but even London or what I imagine somewhere like New York would be. It's not a built-up city. There's no real big apartment blocks and such. It's really quite a large spread city. So the population per square kilometre, say, would now be a lot less than one of these other cities, especially Cairo. Cairo is one of those cities that's very small. I have been to the United States a long time ago, about 17, 18 years ago, I guess. And New York was a city which I didn't spend time in, but I was there for half a day or so. And it was what I felt like a bit like London, where there was a proper heart to the city, where Los Angeles, which is on the opposite coast of the United States, down the southwestern part, in a state called California. That city has a large population again, but it's very spread out. And I went to the city centre. There really wasn't much, it wasn't that popular, you could say. It seemed a bit run down. People tended to go to the other areas, like to their shopping and such. They didn't go all to the city centre. It felt like it didn't have a heart, for the lack of a better term. Going back to the old cities, old Roman cities and such, where the main streets were usually called the cardio, which is referring to the heart. Well, I saw a sign there almost, and I could almost read it. I'm just noticing we are going through a town here, like a built-up area. There's a church, does it say? No, I couldn't make it out. I know I could pause it and let it tell you, but we'll just pretend this is Papakura. Though I could be much further on. I will know when we get to certain points though, because there are certain landmarks I'm familiar with. So yeah. But yeah, Auckland is one of those cities that doesn't really feel like it has a heart, as in a cardio street sort of place. There is a main street, no, I can't remember its name. But we're not going there today anyway, so it's a bit irrelevant. But the city, you're not going to see much high rises is what I'm trying to get at. It's a very low rise, spread out city. Personally, I prefer cities that have a heart, as in a main centre. Just a preference. I've mentioned, and I think I've mentioned that I don't particularly like riding in cities, but this is in touring, on my touring bike with all the luggage in a city I don't know. When you know the cities, it's not so bad, and when you don't have luggage, well, it's fine. I don't mind riding in cities at all. When I lived in London, I often rode to work on my bicycle, mainly because I didn't have other options usually. I'd always choose an alternative if I haven't. Well, basically, I'd always choose a motorcycle. Here's a sign. I think that said Manureira, which is a place we are going to. I think we have to cross a motorway to get to there. So we maybe that was Takanainai that we just went through, that little shopping area. Now, there is another shopping area here, though this looks more like a shopping centre over to the right hand side. But as these cities are, they're all just these suburbs that blend into each other. So this is all guesswork for me. When I was riding there, I would have had a better view of the the signs, but I wasn't actually recording my voice. I think on this part, I think I'd put the microphone on the front of the bike, which maybe is not the best idea, but I wanted to just speed up the footage. I felt it was too much footage, too long-winded, and I wanted to speed it up. And then of course I go and ruin it all by not recording audio at all. But I hope you're enjoying the view of Auckland, the southern parts of Auckland. I hope it gives you some sort of feel for it. This is a rather industrial sort of area. It's coming across anyway to me. As I said, I don't know much about Auckland, except it's the biggest city in New Zealand. And to go anywhere north, you have to go through Auckland. It fills up the entire land mass. I don't actually think it is possible. I'm trying to think, is there a ferry somewhere you could go in the countryside and bypass Auckland? But I don't think there is. I think you have to go down, if you're in a motor vehicle, down the motorway, or if you're on a bicycle like I am, through the city itself. Or as I said, they have put cycle lanes onto a lot of these motorways now, apparently. I'm not sure about the main highway that I could have gone on now. I'm not sure of the extent of these. I should look into it, because when I'm coming back from up north, we'll have to go back through Auckland. It's the only option. As I said, there's no other way through. On the plus side though, at least we can keep a good pace. It's not too hilly around here. Now I think we're heading towards where the motorway is. I can see an overpass here. I think this might be the motorway, which means we're crossing into the Manurewa area of Auckland. So this, I think, I'm quite sure this is the main motorway if you wanted to go back to Hamilton, or if you are going north, you'd keep going to my right now. That would head you north. And that's the quickest way to go north by far. I'm going pretty much the slowest way you could go north, not just from being on a bicycle and my actual speed, but the route I have to take. I'm taking a very indirect route north. But as I said, I can't go across the Auckland Bridge in the city centre due to restrictions. You're not allowed over it, which seems a very silly bridge. They made a bridge that you could only drive over. Seems like a silly bridge to me. You'd think you'd at least put a pedestrian a way across. It's not a very good bridge in my eyes. But New Zealand's a very new country. There's nothing really old in New Zealand. You don't come to New Zealand if you want to see historical anything. New Zealand's a country you would visit to see scenic things, the landscapes. The cities are all very, I don't know, they're very new, so they're not very, in my opinion, very attractive cities or towns. There are some nice buildings around, don't get me wrong. They don't even have that. I've been to places which were once, like the Soviet Union, as in Russia and the Baltic states, and they still have some of their Soviet era buildings, which are very, trying to think of the right word, they're very utilitarian, I guess is the best word I can think. They're made for a distinct purpose. Like this area houses people, this area is a factory, but they still have that, they have something about them that still has a bit of charm. And some of them have nice facades on them as well, so they actually look quite pretty. So this district, as I said before we crossed the bridge, is Manurewa. I know it looks a lot like the other areas we've been through. And yet again, the obligatory American junk food, which infests the world like a virus. I think they're a terrible thing to see. I hate seeing those junk food places. It's just, it's sad to see. Just really, really cheap, bad food, bad quality, bad for your health. Don't buy it, I say. Don't fall into these traps of buying this terrible junk food. So I'm guessing this is actually Manurewa shopping area. South Mall, something said there. South Mall, Manurewa something on that side of the road there. So yeah, this is Manurewa. So now we're in a bus lane. I think I'm allowed to ride in a bus lane. I don't know the rules for this in New Zealand. I could ride on the footpath. I'm quite sure it's a national thing. You can ride on footpaths on a bicycle in New Zealand. I would never recommend riding a bicycle on a footpath. For one thing, the surface is usually a lot worse than a road. It's a lot more bumps and potholes, and you have driveways which, you know, sometimes go up and down, so you're going through these bumps. Mainly though, you have pedestrians on them, so it's not a good idea to be zooming along on a bicycle with pedestrians. It just seems a bit daft. And another thing is, cars pull out of driveways and they're not really expecting a cyclist to go past at 20 kilometers an hour, and they often are going out, reversing out, like this car here. And you could easily just get, once suddenly there's a car in front of you and you're doing 20, 25 k's an hour or kilometers an hour and you're hitting the side of a car. So I think it's a stupid rule to be right that they're trying to encourage, especially children, to bicycle on the footpath. But at the end of the day, they're not really trying to encourage anyone onto anything two wheels. As I've said before, New Zealanders very against motorcycles, the powers that be. They just make these horrible anti-motorcycle rules all the time, and they're making it worse and worse, killing the industry, which is an industry I would usually work in, so it's pretty much destroyed my livelihood. There's just no work anymore in that field. And as I showed you at Pukekohe in the last couple of days, at the motorcycle racing, and I said at one stage when I went past the grandstand how there was a reasonable crowd. I mean, that wasn't the crowdiest, wasn't the best crowd I'd seen there on the weekend. There was actually more earlier on that day, and the following day was more, but it's still pretty empty. It's mostly empty. When I was young, as I said, I went to this racing in the early 80s, and it used to be busy there. That grandstand was pretty full for the classic racing. And it's just, they constantly, ever since I've been young, they've been constantly pushing against motorcycles. Just making more and more legislation to make it worse and worse for motorcyclists. And they love to pump the idea of, oh, when they get hurt, you know, the health costs so much for fixing these people up and stuff. And they never mention that a lot of the crashes are caused by other road users hitting the motorcyclist. So they just punish the motorcyclist and not the other road users. And that's New Zealand's mentality. The government decides it doesn't like something, and it just uses propaganda like every country does to eradicate the things it doesn't like. I think motorcycles maybe represent too much freedom. Not as much, they can't be controlled as easily as a car can be for like self-driving and such. So I think it's New Zealand just trying to push the motorcycles away so they can introduce self-driving vehicles more readily. Well, now we're actually coming up to Manukau. And on my left-hand side here, coming up now, is a big theme park called Rainbow's End. You see the big towery thing there, that's one of the attractions there. That colourful pole, now you can see it, it's in focus. I don't know what that one is, but I used to love going there as a child. I only went there a few times. I absolutely loved it. All the fun of the fair, all the rides and such were great. They actually had a thing where you, like all the computer games in an arcade area, which were great as well. And we could stand in front of this huge curved screen and watch a song, a musical song. Of course, songs are musical. And I one day went there and I put on Pink Floyd's Learning to Fly. I didn't really know much about Pink Floyd, and I put that album on and that song on it. Oh, it's amazing with this huge screen. You should check out the video if you can. I have checked it out since. It's not the best, but some of the parts where the flying is, it's amazing on that big screen. But anyway, so now we're beside the fair park. I'm actually going to call it a end to this video, the end of part 1 for day 5. Yeah, day 5 it is. So I'm just going to pull over underneath this tree up on the left here, and here I have a bit of a rest and a bit of a drink and such. So thanks for watching Vincent's Bike Ride, and I'll see you soon. Bye now.